Boom. Who's first? Keenan? Okay. Someone's joining, that's good. It's been a while. The last Facebook Live I did, let's see when it was. My last Facebook Live was 6 months ago. Just a small holiday from the lives. The last one was DNC recap Q&A for 2019 season. Is Mugen awesome or shit like JQ? Talking shit on top 25 RC. Drake spoke to me. #love. Those were the topics in the last Facebook Live. I don't know if we can top that, but we're gonna try. And I'm back home. You know what that means? We can have an original. Yeah, like the hat? So, opposite. The No Name RC podcast. I can't believe Keenan is still doing these. So, when I first took 2 months out of my life to argue and debate with Keenan about the whole podcast thing, I finally managed to convince him, and I figured he would keep going for about maybe 4 or 5 episodes. And now, let's check what we're on. Now the No Name RC podcast is on episode 38. That's amazing. That's basically 34 more than I thought he would do. And not only that, he's also doing the Rcgp podcast. Let's see. So he's on 38 on NNRC and 12 on Rcgp. So that's amazing. That's just incredible. So he's done 34 more than I think. So 45 podcasts more. Yeah, but 38 is coming up, Keenan. You've done 37. So 40, I mean, before the end of the year, he will have done a year's worth of podcasts more than I expected him to do. That's pretty good. Okay, so here's the deal. We're gonna pick a number. Shit, I was gonna say 100, there's 111. So someone pick a number quick, and that's when I'll start. Until then, I'll do Q&A. There are a few questions on Facebook, and a few questions here, hopefully. So the way we're gonna do this is we pick a number, and then Q&A lasts until we achieve that number. So there's 110 now, so let's see. JB, another retard who can't read, let me borrow 265 bucks so I can pay for Rcgp. We're gonna have to get into that. 69, we already passed that. So someone pick a number, 100 and something. 120, no, that's too close. We can go higher than that. By the way, my legal team has advised me that I can't ask you to spam certain people anymore, or the universe will officially end. 141. Okay, so at 141, I'll start. Until then, it's Q&A. So anyway, yeah, I got a bunch of lawyers now handling me. So there are certain things I can and can't do. So we can't spam certain people anymore. And That's just how it's going to be. So I think just share this video so we can reach 141 so we can start. But JB addressed the whole Rcgp entry fee situation, so we're going to talk about that. No, it's not. It's 125. The entry fee for Rcgp is 125. Perfectly in line with other races. You know why? Because it's only one class. Personally, I don't know a single person who goes to DNC and pays less than $180 in entry fees. So there's that. Because no one races less than 2 classes. It's 125 for entry, but to get entry play for probably plus 4 tires. Yeah, well, you don't have to buy 4 sets of tires. I don't know how it is. Probably 2 sets is enough for the race. I never thought the day would come when JQ would finally grow up. Well, it hasn't come yet. Where are all your trophies? Did you see Paulson's room? Oh my God. I'm gonna read this like it's written. Where are all your trophies? Did you Paulson's room? Question mark. Let's see how she does with the Agama. Okay, I don't know. It's late in Sweden, he must be drunk. Yeah, Paulson going to Agama. You know what? All my shitty trophies are in boxes somewhere, donated back to the club, or in the trash. So I just have a few in here. Let's see, how do I turn this? Just a few. What's happening here? We're back. And there, oh, how does this work? There, that's an empty place because I still have to win something. Then I'll put a nice trophy there. Could you take your shirt off and turn the hat backwards and do the cast? No, why would I do that? Keep this, yes, keep this. I ran 1 class and broke. Well, JB, that's because you went to DNC, not really to race. Rcgp email says you can buy 1 set of tires a day. That's right. Oh, I haven't been following. We're at 134, so we still need a few more. 141 was the number that I'll start this actually at. So, play us a song on the guitar. No, I can't play any songs. I just started. I suck. Any progress on truggy building? No progress on truggy building. I actually have to print out some setup sheets here if we're going to talk about them. So, yeah. We still need 4 more people, then we can start. And Q&A is over after that. Sorry. We got Salty Joe in the house. 5 more people now. What's happening? People are leaving. People are bailing on us. Starting setup. Let's see. Watch my printer not work. Salty Joe and Keenan are convinced that I'm the guy behind the RC News Unlimited website. Let's see what's new there. So they call me Murdoch. Rupert Pumpernickels. What? Pumping knickers? What is it? Printer. Just want to say thank you for Rcgp. Well, you're welcome. Tell Max to get a better haircut. Max, I don't know, he wants to be different, I guess. 139, only 2 more people and then we can start. Printer work. Looks good, looks good. Then we need another one. 1 more person. Oop, we're there. Okay, so let me just print this setup sheet first. Pumpernickel is a very hard and heavy black break. What? You mean bread, maybe? Okay, so what's new? What's happening in the world here? The hoodie tire sauce. Yeah, Salty Joe had a good one earlier here in the week. So Hoodie released some tire sauce for like low grip asphalt and stuff. And apparently, this is the rumor on the street is the tire sauce for 10 scale off-road for loose dirt tracks, that's going to be released in October. That's just what I hear. So conveniently after the Worlds. Anyway, that's the word on the street. So I've been busy here recently. I got myself one of these. 10 scale, Associated B74. I actually messaged Brent Thelke, team manager at Associated, and I said, let's see, where did I message him? I'll give you a direct quote. So I sent him a picture of the car I'm building here, and I wrote, I'm doing R&D. Hopefully I get a sporting invitational to get you more online viewers. And his reply, and I quote, oh fuck. That's what I get. That's what I get. Anyway, so far so good. Looks like an improvement on the old one. So they've listened. Oh, Jeff Keaton, that reminds me. Jeff Keaton is still banned, so he can't see these, and that makes me really happy. So let's keep it that way. No truggy for now, no. Also, there's this poll. I had this great idea of making a poll on the Rcgp Facebook about the Beach RC drivers. And looks like Ryan Lutz is winning. So hopefully Ryan Lutz can be on the Beach RC team. Mayfield, not gonna happen. J Concepts and Mugen, they weren't too happy about that. Mayfield himself would have run. He would have raced, no worries, but you know, the men above, they told him not to. So that's that. Same goes for Kyosho drivers, no Kyosho drivers on the Beach RC team in Rcgp. Kyosho don't like that very much. And yeah, looks like how many votes? How do I see how many votes? I see that on the phone, not here. But I mean, that's double the votes to everyone else. That's ridiculous. Tebow's in third. I don't know if Techno would allow that. Maybe Brent can ask. Tessman fourth, Tyler Jones. I predict Tyler Jones on the team. He wants to do it. Second driver, don't know. Yeah. When are you going to do another US tour to do some testing with your growing US team? Well, I'll be in America again over the winter. Probably head over there sometime in November and stay over the winter, so that time. Hopefully I can do Fall Brawl. I like that race. So hopefully it doesn't rain this year, and maybe Degani and I can head to Fall Brawl. That would be nice. Yeah, that thing on the wall there, that's my, I used to play ice hockey, so I was a goalie, and that's my helmet. Okay, so anyway, just a quick overview of my idea for these. So I'm gonna start doing more regular Facebook Lives, and I'm gonna try and keep them a bit shorter and give you more, more information in a shorter period of time. And every week I'll have them on Wednesdays, this sort of time at night. And every time I'll include a few things. So the Q&A in the beginning, then if there's any kind of news or stuff happening in RC, I'll talk about that, give you my opinion. And then I'll also talk about some sort of setup advice, mostly for 8 scale. And what I'll do coming up first is I'll have a few more Facebook Lives than just one a week, because I'm gonna rebuild this. So this is my race car that I used at Euros and Rcgp in Austria and Italy and the Finnish Nationals. So now it's due a rebuild, and I'll do that on Facebook Live. So I'll do a few Facebook Lives where I take this thing apart, go through it, and talk about the setup I'm using and all the stuff that I have on it, option parts, this and that, carbon fiber, titanium, everything I do to my car, I'll talk about. Then I'll put it back together, and that's that. So I'm gonna do all of that on some Facebook Lives coming up. But other than that, Wednesday nights, European time, is when I'll be doing these. And usually I have something to rant about. This time I'm gonna have to rant about ShockOils. I'm gonna have to have a short rant about that. But first off, we have to talk about the Rcgp situation here. Because now the entry's filled up. There's already a waiting list of about, 25, 30 people. And now the 121st people have been emailed with all the information. And hopefully soon we'll have all the info up on the website too. We're waiting for some stuff from Andrew about hotels and that kind of stuff. And when we have that, we'll post it on the website. But just so everyone is clear and everyone understands, the entry fee is $125. It's just one class, so Nitro Buggy. And let me check the schedule real quick. So on the Friday, there's practice. Everyone in RC2 gets 3 rounds of free practice on Friday. So that's about 7 minutes track time. Then after those 3 rounds of free practice, there's 2 rounds of seeding practice. That's a 3-minute warm-up and then a 6-minute timed run. And then the 3 best lap times of those 2 runs, they seed you into your qualifying heat. So that's Friday. On Friday, you get to run 5 times. Then on Saturday, there's 3 IFMAR style qualifying runs. So you have a 3-minute warm-up followed by a 6-minute qualifying run. So you go out for your warm-up, and then the loop is live and everyone starts as they cross the loop. So normal IFMAR qualifying. Then the 2 best out of those 3 are counted. So each round you finish according to your times and you get points, just like at the Worlds. And we count 2 out of the 3 rounds. And that seeds you into a qualifying race. heads-up race for your final qualifying position. So the fastest guys will all qualify or all seed into the last heat, which is heat 10. So that's going to be the 12 fastest drivers are in there. So any one of those guys can TQ the whole race, because it's a heads-up race. Even if you qualify 12th overall after those 3 IFMA style qualifying runs, you can still TQ, because you have that 6-minute race, and where you finish in that race is where you qualify. So whoever wins the fastest heat, they're TQ overall. And if, let's say you break on the first lap and you're dead last in that heat, you're 12th in the fastest heat, you still qualify 12th overall. So you stay in your bracket. You can't drop further down or bump further up than the heat you're in. So if you're in the slowest heat, heat 1, and you're dead last overall. So that's Saturday. So on Saturday, everyone gets to drive 4 times. 3 times qualifying, IFMA style, and 1 time racing, heads up. Also on the Saturday, there's a junior race. So if you're under 18 years old, then you can race the junior race. The top 12 after qualifying entered into the junior race. That's a 15-minute race. And then the same thing for 40 plus. If you're 40 years old, 40 years or over, you can race in that if you qualify in the top 12 of the old guys. And that's also a 15-minute race. So some drivers get to run 5 times also on Saturday, but most of you are going to run 4 times. Then on Sunday, Sunday's the last day, and everyone gets at least 1 20-minute main. So the mains are Christmas tree style, so odds and evens, A and B, just like at the Worlds or your Nationals. So everyone gets at least a 20-minute main, 3-minute warm-up, 20-minute main, and then the top 4 always bump to the next main. So it starts with 128s, then 64, 32, 16, 8s, quarterfinals, semifinals, and then from the semifinals, 5 from A and 5 from B bump to the main. So we have 10 cars in the main, and then the last 2 will bump from a last chance qualifier. So there's going to be an 8-minute last chance qualifier, and the 2 first drivers there. So first place and second place bump to the main. So it's a 12-car main. And then the main will be 45 minutes. So there's a lot of track time for everyone in RC2. Then the control tire thing. Basically, well, the control tire is the Proline Buckshot S3, and you're allowed 1 set for Friday for seeding practice, 1 set for Saturday qualifying, and then 1 set per final on Sunday. So if you bump, you can buy another set if you want. The track will be run wet, so mornings and evenings tire wear will be low. The track will stay damp. Daytime, we'll see. It will be watered, and I don't think that it will ever dry up to where it starts wearing tires. So I don't think tire wear will be a big issue. Feed keeps dropping. Why is the feed dropping? I don't know. Internet seems okay. I don't know what's happening. So there's that. Then for the free practice, the 3 rounds of free practice on Friday, you can run any tires. You can bring your own tires. If you have Proline tires, you can practice with them. But those tires you can't use in the race. You can also buy control tires if you want for those free practice runs, but they won't be marked, so you can't then run them in the race. So that's about it. Yep. JQ is so cheap he got low internet. No, I didn't. I didn't get low internet. Let me see. How about now? Hopefully it doesn't drop anymore. Okay. Yeah, some people are complaining about the price. Oh, it's expensive, $125 for the entry. Well, you have to remember that it's only one class. Normally when people go racing in America, they race multiple classes to get the track time. And then one entry is maybe $90, but they end up paying for at least two, $180, maybe three, $270. So that's a lot more if I'm doing the math correctly. So there is that. And actually we did some comparisons. We did some comparisons for track time. Jimmy, maybe stop downloading porn. You know, in this day and age, you don't really need to download it. You can just watch it. Yeah, so the RC2 class, you're basically paying for, you're paying $1.30 a minute of track time, which is the lowest out of all the races. The other races here are $1.88, $3 even, $1.55, $1.70, $1.77. So it's the lowest dollars per minute compared to the other major US races. And track time is also good. If you just look at one class, it's actually double the track time to most of the major races. So that's pretty impressive. To get the same track time at other races, you have to race two classes. So there you have it. Makes sense. The heads-up racing is even more ridiculous. So, okay, let's put it this way. Most races in America have 80% less heads-up racing than the RC2 class has. That's crazy. You're paying heads-up racing, you're paying less than $1 a minute. If you make the main, if you make the main at RC2, you're paying 89 cents. 89 cents a minute for your racing. Every other race is over $1. See? We did the math on this. Makes sense. Robert couldn't race the Rcgp in Italy because he's a wildcard guy, and wildcard races can only do 2 races out of the 4. So he did 2. So he's done. But anyway, let's look at some setup things, because there are a few things I want to go over on my buggy here. We kind of we have a really good basic setup that we run, and we only make a few changes now when we go from track to track. So some people, they tend to get carried away and they make changes that I think are too big, and you don't really need to do that with the Black Edition especially. So I'll just go over that. So this car is now the one I ran at the Finnish National last. And I've gone from Asti, which is quite high bite. It's kind of inconsistent. High bite on the groove, but then some dusty sections and dusty offline. But it was completely smooth. Then I did fairing, which was really high speed, quite loose and dusty. Euros, which was, I don't know what to say, rained. It was all over the map. Euros was all over the map. Not too rough, medium traction, I would say. Finnish National got super rough and loose. And I didn't really change much on the car. The changes we make are springs. So on loose tracks, loose rough tracks, we like the stock gray JQ Gray springs. Another option, and what I used at the National, was the Mugen springs. 9.0 in the front, 10.75 in the rear. So I would say on loose tracks, it's between the JQ Grays or these Mugen springs. I ran the Mugens basically because my car was so good in practice that I didn't want to change. And this is what I started with. Max ran the Gray springs, I believe. And he was actually TQ and finished second. So springs is one thing we change. High grip track, we would either run Mugens or then the HB yellows. Max likes to run the HB gold on the front and yellow on the rear, or maybe HB gold on the front and a Mugen spring on the rear. But we never run the JQ Grays on high grip because the Gray spring is quite soft, so the car will roll too much. It will dive and squat and roll too much, move too much. So going to a higher grip track, we change springs to limit the movement of the car. So if you have the stock JQ Gray spring as your go-to spring, and that's what we always start with, if you feel that the car is moving too much on the track, so it's rolling and diving and squatting, then change the spring. Go to the Mugen 9.0, 10.75, or maybe even 10.5 on the rear, or HB yellow or gold on the front and yellow on the rear. So the springs, that's one thing that we change going from track to track. Another thing is the sway bars. Again, the sway bars also to limit roll. Springs will help entering a corner so that the front doesn't dive as much, or accelerating out that the rear doesn't squat as much. Sway bars don't really do that much because sway bars affect the sideways movement. So yeah, it helps a bit when you go in the corner and the car wants to roll over the front. But I feel like the spring helps that movement more. If your problem is front to back, go for the spring. If it's more side to side, go for the sway bar. So on the front, the range is basically 2.1. You can use a old, I think the yellow edition had a 2.1 sway bar. You can bend it to work on the black edition too. So there's no black edition 2.1 sway bar, but there is a yellow edition one. So 2.1 is the thinnest we use, and then 2.4 is the thickest. I never really use that. I go 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. The looser the track, the thinner the sway bar. High grip or inconsistent grip track, like Asti was, I'd put the 2.3 on. Rear sway bar, I only use 2.5 or 2.6, and most of the time I just stick with the 2.6. So basically I can keep the 2.6 on the rear and just change the front. But sometimes on a very loose track, I'll also go down to 2.5 on the rear. The reason I tend to not change the rear sway bar is that going to a thinner sway bar, what I feel happens is when I accelerate out of a corner and I get on the gas, the car gets unstable. It wants to lean on the outside rear tire, and I don't like that. I like it to stay more flat and just square up and go when I get on the gas, and it does so better with the 2.6. So I tend to like that more. But when the track is really slippery, it doesn't do that. There's not enough grip for the car to roll and squat on that outside rear tire. So when it doesn't do that, I can get more traction and more speed with the 2.5 rear sway bar. So yeah, so springs and sway bars, that's what we change, going from our standard starting setup really. I think I actually posted a new one on the website. I think I printed the old one. Okay, other things that we change that are good to change. Arm height. So notice, we don't really change link positions too much. We tend to keep standard link positions, as in your basic setups, you know, middle on the front tower, long, upper, long hole on the hub, middle on the rear tower, and long, lower on the hub. I have new hubs here. I'll talk about them in a minute. So that's why I was thinking, like, where is it? But anyway, moving the arm, so A and B block, the inserts, we can raise and lower the arm. On the rear, where is this? C, D block, we can raise and lower the arm. This is also a very good setup feature that we use every race, I would say. We try and adjust this. On the front, I adjust it much less than the rear. On the front, basically what I like to do is most of the time I will run the number one all the way down on the A and B block. So the front arm is as low as possible. And the reason I do that is I find that when the arm is as low as possible on the front, the car has less of a tendency to flip over. So I'm much less likely to clip a curb and crash, or hit a bump and crash, or make a small mistake and roll. So I like that setting because of that. So I like to start with the arm all the way down. So number one, insert arm all the way down in the A and B blocks. And then if I'm at a track where it's high grip enough and fast enough where I feel that the front end is diving a lot, or maybe I feel that the steering is a bit too aggressive and inconsistent, even that suddenly it just grabs too much, then I'll raise the front arm to the middle, so I have the 0 and 0. Back in the day, 0, 0 was the standard setting, but now I've pretty much switched over to running it all the way down. So this is something that you could try. You could try running the front arm all the way down in the A and B blocks and see what you think. I like that setting a lot now. So most of the tracks I run that. And then I move it up if I feel like I need to make the car a bit easier to drive and don't mind the risk of it flipping over a bit easier. But then on the rear, okay, this is where we change these inserts a lot. Every single race, I would say. So if we just talk about arm height now, arm height and anti-squat. Anti-squat is a bit easier, I would say. I think that it's best, I tend to always sort of look at the track, read the track, and then decide what to start with. But if you don't do that, I would start with 2 degrees. I would start with having 0 in the C block and then all the way down, number one all the way down in the D block. So that gives you 2 degrees of anti-squat, and the arm is as low as you can get it using 2 degrees. And then I would change to less anti-squat if the track is bumpy. And if I feel that the rear end it doesn't feel plush over the bumps, that the rear end is kind of bouncy and feels stiff, then I would go to less anti-squat, so 1 degree. And then I would decide on which height to place that 1 degree based on traction. So if the track is very loose and but it's bumpy and I feel like I need less anti-squat, then I would go 1 all the way down in the C block and D block. So that's 1 degree in the arm as low as possible. Most of the time I don't use that because it makes the rear end soft and the car feels good, but it's a bit slow. You lose some corner speed. So what I like to do is I like to use 0.5 down in the C and D block. If I'm at a very high grip track, maybe I'll run 0 and 0. So those are really the combinations we tend to use. Sometimes, you know, if I can't make up my mind, I'll use something like 0.5 up and 0.5 down. And that's again 2 degrees, but it's slightly higher than what I said you should start off with. So this is a really good setting that you should play around with, because it makes a noticeable difference on the track. Even though it's such a tiny change, just 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter, but when it's here, when it's that inside of the arm in the C and D blocks, it really makes a noticeable difference on the car. So I would recommend that you try that. So far, the things that we change going from track to track and when at a race and trying to dial in the car, we don't really make big changes to everything like I see many people do. So far we've gone over springs. We changed springs. We run JQ Grays, Mugen 9.0, 10.75 or 10.5. HB yellow or gold on the front, HB yellow on rear. We run different sway bars, 2.1, 2 or 3 on the front, 2.5 or 2.6 on the rear. Then we change the front arm height, low most of the time, and then if the car feels hard to drive, high grip track, inconsistent steering, raise the arm. So all the way down to 0, 0. Rear, play with anti-squat, rough track, less anti-squat, smooth track, more anti-squat. Low arm for loose tracks, raise the arm for high grip tracks. What's next? Toe-in. Toe-in's interesting. So now the trend is to run a low amount of toe-in. That's kind of how it used to be back in the day, then it became 3 degrees everywhere, and then now it's back. And most tracks I run 1.5 now. So the way to get 1.5 degrees is we use the White Edition original square insert toe-in block with the least amount of toe-in you can. So that's 1.5 degrees. And what I've noticed is if the 1.5 doesn't work for me, if it's too loose, I don't go to 2 or 2.5 or something like that. I just go to 3. So it's either you run 3 degrees or you run 1.5. You don't run anything in the middle, because if you run 2 or 2.5 or something like that, it's just a compromise. You don't get the best of either world. So with 1.5, the rear end doesn't really grab. It doesn't, most tracks it has enough grip, but it doesn't stick really. So it's very easy to kind of drift the car just a bit. I don't mean going sideways, but just it's kind of slightly loose. So it's easy to kind of flow around the track. So when you can do that, the corner speed is just great because the rear doesn't want to stick. So 1.5 and I think even less than that. So we actually need to make an even narrower block so we can get less or wider block here actually. So yeah, run the 1.5 most of the time. And then if you feel like you've played around with the setup and it just seems loose, then just forget about 2, 2.5, forget about all of that, go to 3. And the reason to do that big jump is then when you have 3 degrees, then you have a good rear grip. So it doesn't slide in the same way, you don't have the same corner speed, but you have control, you don't lose the rear end. So it will always have good grip. So you can drive fast and aggressive and precise, and you don't have to sort of fight the rear end or recover it after you slide out, which will happen when you have some sort of compromise between the 1.5 or the 3. So that's what I find at least. Okay, so after that, what else do we change? Another thing we change is Diff Oils. Diff Oils, I almost feel like the things that I covered are sort of the order we make these changes, because springs, sway bars are vital. They need to be right for the traction you have on the track and the speed you're going around the track like. So that's the first thing you do. Springs, sway bars. Arm positions, when you try this for yourself, you'll know what the different positions do. So you'll run on the track one time and you know, okay, I need to run this position. So those things, same for towing, you kind of know, oh, I need to do this. So those things should be easy for you to get right. Most of the time, I'm able to get them right without even driving on the track. I look at the track, I look at other cars, and I make a decision. But after 1 or 2 times on the track, those things are set correctly, I would say. After that, I don't really change them anymore in the race. Only, you know, anti-squat or toe-in or some slight changes like that. But I tend to stick to my sway bars, stick to my springs. So then I would say that the diffs are really more fine-tuning than these things I spoke about before. So front diff, on the JQ car we run thicker oils than most others because our diff gears, I thought I had some here, the teeth are a bit smaller than on other cars. So on the front I run between 10 and 15,000 most of the time. And then sometimes I'll go up, for example, I think at the Euros I actually tried this, just go up like 20,000 or 30,000 in the front diff. But most of the time I'm running 12.5 to 15,000 in the front diff, and it's just right. Center diff, I tend to run 12,000 to 15,000. I used to run thicker, like 20,000, but I feel like it takes away too much steering off power. So 12 to 20,000 is what I run in the center. And then rear, I run normally about 5 to 10,000. So I'll just quickly explain when I change these. So again, I'll look at the track and decide what to start with. So let's say I start with 12,000. Most likely, if the car is good and I started with 12, I'll just stick to that. But if I need to change something, 10 is really the thinnest I would ever go. If I feel like I need more off-power steering, I could go to 10,000 here in the front diff. If I feel like the car is a bit nervous off-power, I could go to a thicker front diff oil. Also, if I feel like I need more drive, I could go to a thicker front diff oil, maybe 15 or 20,000. Center diff, normally I start with 15,000. So that's a good setting. Then if I feel like my car is hard to drive, the track's getting dusty and broken up and it's hard to get on the gas and accelerate, I'll go to 12,000. Just makes the car easier to drive. If the track is smooth and high bite, and I feel like I need more drive, maybe the car is even a bit unstable, I'll go to a thicker center diff oil. Maybe I'll go to 20,000 in the center. And rear diff, let's say I start with 6,000. That's a typical oil I start with. Depending on the track again, if the track is something like a US style like Thunder Alley or something, I'll probably just stick to the 6,000. If the track is a Euro style big track, maybe let's say Asti. Well, Asti was a bit tight, but you know, your typical flat, medium to high grip track, flowing corners, I'll definitely go thicker on the rear diff oil. Maybe I'll try 8,000, maybe I'll try 10,000. And the thick rear diff oil just gives you a lot more corner speed and a lot more drive. The bad thing is you have less steering off power, so less steering into corners, and also it can get loose on power. So it's a balancing act. But typical starting setup for me, which I know will be good, and then I can tune from there, is let's say like 15, 15, 5, 15, 15, 6. It's gonna work everywhere. And then if that's my starting setup, already before I drive, I just look at the track and think, what am I gonna need from the car, and I adjust. So maybe at some track I'll go 12, 12, 6. Another track I might go 15, 15, 6. Maybe another track I'll go 15, 20, 10. Because I know what to expect. And I've tried these things before, so I already have an idea of what to do. For me, if I run something, Harley is asking 553, the problem is that, yes, it feels good. On, let's say, like where we had the Finnish National, very loose track, it got rough. Yes, it would be an okay setting, but it would just be, in my opinion, too slow. It's safe but slow. Like, you don't have the acceleration, you don't have the drive. So it's faster to run slightly thicker oils. And then if you run 553 on a higher grip track, then the problem would be that it would actually be unstable. So off power, the car would want to oversteer and be aggressive. And then when you get on the gas with very thin diff oils, if the track is high grip, it's also unstable because front tire or rear tire or front tires, they'll diff out. So when you are trying to accelerate smoothly, one tire will suddenly diff out and it will unsettle the car. So the thicker oils actually make the car more stable. So going in to corners and off power, the car will be less nervous, more stable. Then getting on power, no tires will diff out so aggressively, so the car will stay more stable also. So yeah, I really think on this car, most of the time, you want to run thicker diff oils. And yeah, those are really the most common and most important setup changes that we do at races. There are more, of course, but those are really the key ones that we do. The shock oils, the reason to change shock oils really is just to adjust to temperature. So hot weather, thicker oils, cold weather, thinner oils. It's rare really that we just want to change the balance of them. So on this car, for example, 7 1.25s in the front, 7 1.35s in the rear. Like 20 degrees Celsius. Here in Finland, I ran 450 and 400. In Italy, it was really hot, 35 degrees. I ran 550, no, I actually ran 500, 450, I think. At some point I tried 550, 500, but it was too thick. So not too much of a change even. Pistons typically just run the same everywhere. 7 1.25, 7 1.35. Sometimes we run 7 1.3 in the front. It calms it down a bit. And then 3.5 in the rear. Pistons, normal flat pistons most of the time. Then I also like to run, that's what I have in here now. I like to run those Ultimate Racing pistons. So they are conical, the cone shaped down, and the holes are also angled. So why I like to run these is when I run them, I lay the shocks down on the front. The rear I kept the same now. You can run the suspension so it's plush, it feels soft, it handles bumps well, but then you have pack when you land off jumps. So I like the feeling of that. And they are really good on rough tracks. So this track got rough and the pistons were really good. Max runs 400. I don't know what Max ran. I think he ran the same as me, but yeah, you have to ask Max. Was there something else about this? Steer, there's one other thing. It's not really something that we change at the track too much, but it's something that we've been running different ones at different times. So this plate here, I've been running the number 2 plate. The plate is shorter, the link is longer. What the shorter plate does is it improves the steering a lot in hairpins. So the standard car comes with the number 1 plate here. The number 1 plate is very stable and has smooth initial steering. So initial steering is smooth, makes the car easy to drive. But the negative side of that is, let's say you're on a loose track, you go into a hairpin, you turn the wheels, it just pushes. There's this like mid-corner push goes in smooth, and then it pushes. And that's an issue. You have to kind of slow down and wait for the car. The number 3 plate, it just kind of gives it a bit more initial steering, so it kind of goes into that corner, but then it pushes mid-corner too. So the number 2 plate, which is the shortest one, I'd like to run that now, because in those kind of corners, it will have more steering and you don't have to stop and wait in those hairpins. It kind of turns more mid-corner on these loose tracks. So I like that. The bad thing about this is that initial steering is more. But again, that hasn't been an issue for me now because of how good the rest of the car is. So the fact that I have a bit more initial steering doesn't bother me because the car is easy for me to drive. And when we run, when we run the standard number 1 plate here, we run the Ackerman typically all the way forward. That seems to be the best setting for that. But when we run this number 2, we run it all the way back or in the middle. So remember, when you change this plate, you also change the location here on the Ackerman plate. So number 1, you run the link all the way forward. Number 2, you run it all the way back or in the middle. So I think that covers that. So when I rebuild this thing, I don't know, I'll start next week and then I'll do Facebook Lives as I rebuild it. I'll go over all the settings and what I'm doing. So that's that. Can you explain the difference in handling between a wide rear pivot versus a narrow rear pivot? Well, we haven't really tried it on here, but basically the narrow rear pivot will have a longer arm and the car will be more stable, more consistent. The rear grip will be more consistent. And so you can set the car up to be less aggressive. And then with the wider pivot, you can make the car have more corner speed, but the rear will also be more inconsistent. So your car is good, track gets loose, bumpy, rough, whatever, it will change somehow. Maybe you'll start losing the rear end. Maybe you have to readjust your setup. So I think the narrow pivot will be more consistent and easy, and the wide pivot will be naturally more fast, but also more inconsistent and harder to drive. Do you find that the Mugen springs and ultimate pistons with shocks laid down can decrease the jumping lift? What do you do if you like the steering and grip with the shocks laid down, but then struggle a bit making some of the harder, maybe poorly made jumps? Yeah, it does have less lift, which I think is good because you can hit the jumps faster. So you won't jump as much, meaning you can hit the jumps faster. And so I think that's a good thing. If some jumps are causing trouble for you, you could try more kick up on the front. I've never really changed it, but I know that it helps in those situations. So the front arm, just angle it up more. That will help on those jumps. But what else would you try? I don't know. I mean, for jumps and when they wear out, it's mostly throttle control and line selection. I mean, sometimes maybe you just let off and accelerate up the face and it will jump better. Sometimes you want to hit the jump with less throttle, so the car is soft and it absorbs more when you go up the jump. So that's kind of, I think, really if your car is really good, then it's more of a sort of driving technique thing at that point. Well, I kind of covered, what about setup tips for blown out tracks? I kind of covered it with the springs that we run or less anti-squat. One thing I could say still is it's a setup we have on the website also, is if you're at the track, let's say the DNC where it used to be in Arizona, especially for daytime racing. So how the track got edgy. The surface was rough. It was kind of grippy. So the car started catching stuff. So what we did, and what works really well, is kind of a combination of changes. So you take the rear hub and you raise the rear hub. So there's an insert here. Instead of using the top hole, you use the middle hole. So you raise the hub, and then this is a new hub. So the standard hub has 2 rows. You use the top outer hole for the link, and then you use the top hole on the tower. You raise the link. So you raise the link on the tower and the hub if you don't have it up already, and you raise the hub. And that setup really helps to smooth the car out so it's not so edgy. So that's one thing we like to change on rough tracks. And also, you can also move the hub back 1 position, which again helps. So if you make that combination of changes on an edgy track where car is hard to drive, it will help a lot. I'm not a believer in chassis weights, so I don't use any weights. Actually, I'm using all kinds of stuff to reduce weight, so we can talk about that in a future Facebook Live. And now I want to eBuggy this. Keenan is forcing me to do this. I didn't really want to, but I have to. Because Keenan claims that eBuggy pays the bills. Now, to this day, I don't know whose bills eBuggy is paying. Because I have bills and they aren't being paid. And actually that reminds me. Talking about bills reminds me. There's still 124 people here. I have, let me check. Oh, they're right there. I have 2 shirts left. So both are size L. So if you need large, a JQ official Rcgp team shirts, collared shirts, made in Poland of all places, message me. So what, 2 of these, and actually we've got some JQ threads going out right now too. So JQ Threads website and web shop actually functional for Europe only so far. It's gonna be for the rest of the world shortly. So just got a nice JQ Threads order going out here. Combined, because this guy messaged me, so he actually combined it with some JQ Racing shirts. How cool is that? So kind of, if you can't figure it out, if you don't live in Europe, you can just message me and I'll hook you up. But I think next week we'll actually have the JQ Threads webshop also available for worldwide shipping. So right now we only have shipping within Europe, but if you message me, I'll ship you shirts, don't worry. But yeah, so Salty Joe, I want 2XL. Yeah, well, I just said we only have larges. So yeah, if you want some JQ Threads or JQ Racing Team shirts, you know what to do, message me. Okay, here goes. So anyway, I have to do this. I apologize, but I'm gonna have to talk about the Black Edition eBuggy. I'm gonna make this quick because it's eBuggy time. Okay. Best thing about this car is basically the paint job. Jay Smoker, how cool is that? Jay is on the box because he's the eBuggy master at OCRC Raceway. Marshals are afraid to death of this guy. If there are 4 jumps on the track, he will quad it. It doesn't matter if they're on different sections of the track, going the opposite direction, the lanes, it doesn't matter. If there are 4 jumps, he's gonna quad it at some point. So it's just ridiculous. If you ever go to OCRC, watch the 8 scale buggies race. Another thing, if you go there, you should probably go early in the year. I would say maybe January or February. You know why? Because what tends to happen is I go over there to America, I give Jay a perfectly prepared 8-scale eBuggy, ready to go. He puts it on the track, never wrenches on it. So if you go there like June, after June, it's like 6 months old already. And you know, end of the year, complete disaster. So yeah, if you go early in the year when it's still, you know, fresh, and then you'll see some quads. Anyway, the body's the best thing about this. Throw that over there. Ah, got some shorties in here. So, what's new? Front end, it's just a Black Edition Nitro. It's actually the same as the Grey Edition. Why grey? Because we used to have the White Edition in Nitro and Electric. Then we made a Black Edition Nitro, but we didn't make a new Electric. Why? Why didn't we make one? Because we had a whole bunch of center diff mounts, motor mounts, chassis, dog bones, everything in stock. Clever businessman that I am, I decided, let's not throw all these parts in the trash. Let's sell these parts. Let's make a grey edition. You mix some black with white and you get grey. So we had the Black Edition front end, Black Edition rear end, White Edition center part. Became the Grey Edition. Well, now we sold out of all that old crap, so we could make a new one. A 3mm chassis, because that's the way to go. Black Edition wheelbase, a bit longer in the rear. New, much better, hopefully Jay smoker proof motor mount. So Jay, when he quadded, sometimes he would almost quint. So he would just, boom, hit the 5th jump, not the 4th one. And sometimes the mount would slightly bend, so your motor started to sort of move, you know. Either way, really. I mean, he bent some mounts, I'll tell you. So we fixed that. Now it's, you can see here there's an extra screw there. So this thing really isn't gonna bend. 5 screws holding that thing in place. On top, also better design, easier access. Both screws are here on top. You can get your motor out, set your mesh. So that should be good to go. What else? Oh yeah, another issue we had with the previous one, the front brace wasn't too good. So now the front brace goes all the way to the center diff mount there. So that front brace, good to go. Even Jay can't bend this one. What else is going on here? Well, we have some different options for, you know, these electric guys. They run all kinds of different batteries, you know, full size and shorties and all that stuff. I'm not really into all that. I don't know the specs these days. I like to run nitros, you know. I'd much rather talk about this actually, to be honest. Nitro, this is the way to go. But since Keenan is forcing me because some hypothetical bills are being paid by this thing, I'm just gonna quickly tell you that, yeah, we have some different options here. You can run shorties, you can run them forward, you can run them back. This is in the back position now. There's a different, oh yeah, this is new too. No more straps to break and snap off. So we have this carbon fiber battery holder. So there's another one, a longer one for the full length 4S batteries or 2S batteries. And that's probably what Jay will be running because he likes the power, you know. What else? Yeah, I've got some LRP electronics in here. So they went bankrupt and my lifetime sponsorship ended, and then I have this theory about people. So, you know, there are these people who, they wear glasses, and then for whatever strange reason, when they take pictures, they take the glasses off. And then they pose for pictures. And I don't trust these people. So Jurgen did it at the 10 scale Euros, and And I think I'm gonna have to keep a close eye on that guy. So anyway, back to LRP, IX8. He said he has some new software, this and that. I kind of zoned out because he was talking about electronics. So I don't remember what he said, but something about that anyway, like USB bridge and this and that, and I don't know. Next time I see him, I'll just say, is this good or what? Am I running the right settings? Are the lights flashing and blinking in the right order and rhythm? Is this good? I don't know. It's very confusing. New motor. I like this. I like how this one looks actually. This X44, 2,300 kilovolts, megajoules, pumpernickels, 2,300 pumpernickels. That's what he thinks I should be running. So I'm running it. Shorties probably just for the picture. I don't know. I'll try it. Savox 2292 servo. I wonder if that's going to work in this. I don't know. What else? I mean, it's just an eBuggy, you know. We had a bit of a disaster with the manual and the box and something. I don't know. Some part they couldn't get anodized. Apparently, Chinese government's clamping down on anodizing factories now. So that's nice. We've had some delays. We've pretty much sold out of the first batch without officially releasing the car yet. That's interesting. So we've been shipping buggies without the manual and final production box. And, you know, various random assortment of parts. Missing this and missing that, and too many of those, and some nitro parts in the mix. You know how it goes. So yeah, but we've sold a whole bunch that way, and now I've been told that before the end of the year, okay, I'll just say before the end of the year. So what is it? What is it now? August? Who knows, basically? Who knows when this thing is gonna ship? I don't know, but it's done. I mean, this is it. It's gonna look awesome. It looks awesome, performs great. People, I haven't driven it, I mean, what do I care? But people are saying the 100 guys got theirs. Some people who just wanted the car, screw the manual and the box, we don't need that, we just want the car. They've driven it and they say, oh, it's so much better. Corner speed and this and that, and yeah, I don't remember. They just liked it. So they said it's an improvement. The black edition is better than the gray. That's what they said. I'm gonna run it at DNC. So we'll see how it goes there. And yeah, Jay Smoker, yeah, this is your new car. You're gonna get this November. November? No, maybe, I don't know. Probably won't have it for Rcgp. You'll have to wait a bit longer. Anyway. There. Keenan, I hope you're happy. Carbon center mount brace. Yes, you saw right. 2,300 rupees. That's right. Okay, so are we done here? I just e-card this. You have to, I mean, for an e-car, it really does look sexy, doesn't it? Don't you think? Second batch in production. Oh yeah, battery comes out with these things. Hopefully I have more. So that's good, thumb screws. Body shell's still the same. Same old, same design. That JQ concept design. So anyway, is that it? Are we done? Paco Topete is here from Mexico. Yeah, that's a place I need to go racing in. Mexico. Hey Paco, when is there a good race we can go to? Maybe bring the Ghani. ShockOil, oh my God. I was gonna go, I forgot. Okay, here's a very quick rant on ShockOils, okay? Where's my ShockOils? Okay, here's the deal. Quick rant on shock oils. Mexico in September. What's happening, Anthony? Here's the deal. This is the most asked question I get, and it's, quite frankly, it's kind of pissing me off now. Silicone shock oils, there's different ways of rating them. CST, weight. This way of rating sucks, by the way, not linear at all. Different brands, different viscosities. Even it has the same number, it's still not the same. So that's kind of where we're at. You can't compare different shock oil brands even, okay? Now, you don't even need to keep that in mind. Forget all about that. But you just know, you can't even compare that. And then, random people come up to me at a race and they ask the most irrelevant question they could, which is, what shock oil are you running? I have never ever in my RC career understood this question. They walk up to me at a race. I have my car there. They feel the suspension and they say, what shock oil are you running? Now, bear in mind, this guy who is asking this does not run a JQ car. He's running some other car. He's probably not running Ultimate Racing shock oils. And he has no clue what Pistons I'm running. Yeah, always the same. What shock oil? I'm like, it's irrelevant. It doesn't, I'm running HP sauce. HP sauce in the front and original in the rear. That's what I'm running. And they'll be like, oh, cool. It's exactly the same information and as helpful as saying that I'm running 450 in the front and 400 in the rear. So why do people insist on asking this? I don't get it. Like, if you're gonna ask what shock oil you're running, you have to ask, at least you have to ask, what piston are you running? Because if I'm running 500,000 in the shock because I'm only running a shim, no piston, you know, and you're running a 2-hole 1.5, then your two-hole 1.5 is not going to move. But mine is, because I'm just running the shim and not the whole piston. You know, so it makes a difference. But people don't seem to get this. And it confuses me. For 20 years in the RC industry, this question has confused me. What benefit, like when people walk up to you and ask, what shock oil are you running? How does that improve their lives? Like, do they go back to their car and put that shock oil in without knowing what the piston is, without knowing what the shock oil brand is, using some like, well, he said he's running 500 and I'm running 32. That's way off. I need to find some 500. Is that what they're doing, really? Like, I don't know, but this has to stop. This really has to stop. I think from now on, when someone asks me that, I'm gonna go for the HP sauce and original line. So they just want to start a conversation. Well, can you think of something relevant to start a conversation with then? Not just what shock oil are you running? This was probably a huge mistake, because now every single person in the world who ever talks to me is gonna ask me what shock oil I'm running. So this may backfire really bad. American accent on the 500. I wasn't thinking about that. RC kits are too expensive. No, they're not. Yeah, that's what I said. Like, what diff oil are you running? Yeah, that's the two. What diff oil are you running in a different car? I still think that the shock oil thing is worse. Diff oil, yeah, you can get some sort of idea. Like, oh man, this guy's running like way different oils than me, and you could get ideas. But shock oil, the information is actually, the value of that information is zero, or maybe even negative, because it just confuses you. High or low wing mount and why? Always high wing mount because it's just always better. Forget about the low wing mount. High wing mount. Every time. Look at the other brands. Started all low and lame. They all have high wing mounts now. They were like, fuck, this JQ guy, he made a high wing mount and cars dialed. Always replace the oil, don't top it off. Just replace the oil. Okay, JB's question is going to be the last question. And then please, can someone eBuggy this? Don't you remember how these things end? I have to stay here until someone ends it. LRP receiver packs. The brick. Come on, JB. Where's your question? Thank you. We have an eBuggy, but I see JB's question. Why does the JQ Nitro run normally higher diff than the other brands? You haven't been paying attention. We covered this already. You're going to have to go back. Now, I'm such a nice guy, I'm going to tell you. Because you know, the gears inside the diff, the teeth are a bit smaller. Less surface area, cutting through the oil. So less friction, which means we have to run slightly thicker oils to get the sort of same feeling. So on the JQ car, we run thicker oils than on most other cars, and we get away with it. That's why. So the teeth are smaller, just like you, JB. eBuggy.